This is session 2 of the Prayer of Faith. There are a few places in the Bible where Jesus actually commends a person for their faith, but there's a story in Luke 9 where Jesus was actually amazed at this person's faith, and he said that he had never found such faith, not even in all of Israel. And the story is of a Roman centurion who was in Capernaum, and he heard that Jesus had returned to Capernaum. He had a servant that he was very fond of, but who was dying. And so he said, he sent to some of the Jewish leaders and said, "Would you speak to Jesus and ask him if he will come and heal my servant?" We don't know much about this centurion except that the Jewish people felt very kindly towards him because he had been kind to them. He had even managed to organise building a synagogue for them. So they went to Jesus and they asked Jesus, would he come and heal this servant? And it says they pleaded earnestly for Jesus to do so because this man had been so good to them. And they said, he deserves your help. This is where we learn the first thing about this centurion. When Jesus was on his way, the centurion sent a message saying, "Don't come to my house, I'm not worthy for you to be under my roof." Now this is a man with all the power and authority of Rome. He obviously had a lot of clout because he'd managed to get the synagogue built. He had every right to feel that he deserved attention, especially from some lowly itinerant preacher. But he had enough respect for Jesus that, from what he'd heard about him, that he was humble and he would not presume on his position. And this really is a great attitude for starters. But then we find out that he was not a man who was insecure. In fact, he was very aware of his power. And he said to the friends that he sent out to meet Jesus, all he needs to do is say the word and my servant will be healed. Why he was able to say this was because he knew how authority worked. He says, I know that I can command someone to do something and he will do it. What he must have seen in Jesus was that he had authority. He had the authority from God. This is what amazed Jesus, that a non-Jewish person should recognize the authority of God in Jesus and believe that whatever Jesus said would be done. When the friends returned to the centurion, of course, they found the servant was healed. Now this centurion knew very little of the Jewish law or scriptures, yet he recognized the authority of Jesus. And that's what gave him the ability to trust. And that's what amazed Jesus, that so many of the Jewish people should have been able to see who Jesus was because it was all there in their scripture. They'd heard his teaching and they'd often commented on, this is amazing, the authority that this man has, and yet they could not recognize that he came from God. Knowing who Jesus is vital in the prayer of faith.
Call out your name in the darkness and watch as your glory unfolds. For there is no measure or end to the power you hold. Justice and truth are your virtues, with many to vast for our words. No mind contains the splendor of all that you are. Our God has done great things. Our God is greater than all. Miracles are your memorial, the promise of wonders to come. You are the author, God, you complete